That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, y'all know it's a little bit different about our channel compared to other channels and really other fantasy football networks is I do everything that I can to answer as many of your questions every single day as possible. I mean, I go down to the comment section and I reply to probably about 300 comments every single day, answering your start sit questions, answering your trade questions. I live stream for about 4 hours every single night as well, answering those questions for anybody who's subscribed to the channel. And I know a lot of people are going, well, Mason, you live stream 4 hours every night. Where do you do that? I do that on this channel right here. Yeah, you don't see the live streams afterwards just because they don't make for intriguing videos. But make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to be able to come out to those live streams and get your own start sit questions answered. And also, I mean, with that is not enough of me going through and answering every single comment, every single question in the live streams. We're going to go through and we're going to go to Twitter. Let's grab some questions for Twitter. Anybody following me at Build the Dynasty, we're going to be answering these questions every single Saturday as well. So just make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're dropping likes and leaving comments on the videos if you want to be entered in to win a chance to get a free Fantasy Flock Network hat. And yeah, this video, let's just use 2 of the comments that we actually got and we'll just give out the hats to these people real quick. So Jacob coming out says, love the work you put in, dog. Should I start Tannehill or Justin Fields this week? We'll get to that question later on in the video, but my friend, you win a Fantasy Flock Network hat for leaving a comment on one of our videos. And then also we're going to give one out to Lazy Ones who says, start Goliday or Claypool, LOL. Only thing I'm deciding. Also, go Flock Network. I want a hat. Wait, everyone wants a hat. Yes, sir. I mean, congrats on winning a Fantasy Flock Network hat. Just make sure y'all are dropping those comments down below if you want to win one as well. We'll get to that question later on. But let's go through and let's start this off with Cameron's question coming out from Twitter, who is saying, start Daryl Henderson or Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the flex this week. And yes, CEH has been unbelievably disappointing. I mean, it's impressive with how many points the Kansas City Chiefs have been putting up that Clyde Edwards-Helaire simply has not been able to get anything going, despite really any other running backs on this offense being there to take away opportunity from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Well, I mean, someone that just is seeing no usage in the receiving game. At least he didn't see that usage in week 2 and going back to week 1. I mean, he got some, but also he got that touchdown vultured from him at the goal line by Patrick Mahomes. And the same thing happened in week 2 with Daryl Williams. And you cannot have Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting the touchdowns taken away from him, because if he doesn't have a ton of usage in the receiving game, that means nothing's left. That means there are no high value touches left for Clyde Edwards-Helaire in this offense. So it's concerning. And with that being said, we still have to go Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, if you're looking at Daryl Henderson on the other side, Daryl Henderson has looked great through the first 2 weeks, but A, we're unsure the exact health of Daryl Henderson for Sunday, and B, to go along with this, he's going up against the toughest run defense that you're going to see in the NFL. And if you actually look at what Las Vegas is predicting for this Los Angeles Rams and Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, it's supposed to be extremely close, despite Tampa coming out and just blowing out the Dallas Cowboys as well as the Atlanta Falcons in week 1 and week 2. This game's supposed to be competitive. And what that tells us is, that, I mean, Matthew Stafford probably going to be throwing the ball 40 plus times this week. I would be very surprised if Los Angeles and Sean McVay think that they can lean on the run going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw that the Dallas Cowboys with Ezekiel Elliott in week 1 completely abandoned a run to throw the ball. I think you're going to see a very similar thing here with the Rams, because we've honestly seen them already really want to go through and be pass happy if you're looking at game neutral scenarios. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to be avoiding Daryl Henderson everywhere we can this week. I think that he is a player that you have to bench, to be honest. So yeah, we're going to go Clyde Edwards-Helaire against the Los Angeles Chargers. Even though there are his own red flags, I think that we have to just be avoiding Daryl Henderson at all cost. And now our next question going to come out from Eric, who says, should we flex Mike Williams or Deandre Swift this week in a full PPR format? Now, obviously, Mike Williams in that same game as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, where you should expect this to be very high scoring between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chief defense has looked like it really has nothing to do with the Kansas City Chiefs' success so far in 2021. I mean, this defense has been very underwhelming, where pretty much everything's been funneled through their offense. And that would give you a good sense of security with Mike Williams and seeing the opportunity that he has had through the first 2 weeks of this season. And I want to say real quick, this is not a fluke for Mike Williams. If you're looking at Mike Williams, his role in this offense has almost entirely changed, where now he is not just getting used as an exclusive deep threat, as you actually saw indicated by his average air yards per target over the past 2 seasons. If you're looking at that compared to where he's being used on the football field in this year, I mean, it's actually way better. I mean, he's getting used at every area of the football field, every level of the defense Mike Williams is going up against. What you like for more consistent production. Also, I'm willing to bet on this Los Angeles Chargers offense continuing to improve throughout the season, knowing that their offensive line should just get better and better and better with the addition of Rashawn Slater, who is still a rookie, Corey Lindsey as well, coming over to this offense this offseason. So I think that we are excited about the Chargers in the long term. And I will say that Deandre Swift, a very tough matchup going up against the Baltimore Ravens defense, where we know this Ravens defense has been really good so far against running backs this season. Now, yes, they give up 2 rushing touchdowns to Josh Jacobs in week 1, but if you're actually looking at the production that Josh Jacobs had in terms of his efficiency per touch, I mean, they really didn't let Josh Jacobs get anything going. And then in week 2 as well, of course, they shut down Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, with that being said, I think we go Deandre Swift here. And the problem with benching Deandre Swift in a full PPR format is you just have such a safe role in the receiving game. And also with Deandre Swift, this is a running back that's another week removed from his groin injury. So if this was a running back, I don't know, say Daryl Henderson that we previously talked about, that drew the majority of his value in his actually running the ball rather than his usage in the receiving game, I think there would be a lot more worried about the Baltimore Ravens defense. But I think Deandre Swift is a little more independent than the defense he's going up against, because you're not just relying on him to go out there and get a ton of red zone usage. No, you're more so relying on that usage in the receiving game. While yes, touchdowns are always a possibility, I think that with Deandre Swift, the floor and ceiling combination that he provides, especially if we're going to be wanting to bet against Jamal Williams as the season goes on, I think we probably want to go Deandre Swift here. Now, our next question coming out from Braden, it says Michael Carter Jr. over Javonte Williams. And I will say, you have to go Javonte Williams here. I mean, with Michael Carter, yes, it is impressive that he looks like he is taking over as the lead running back in New York. At least he did in week 2, if you're looking at the opportunity that he saw. But the problem is just this offense is not in a position to succeed. You actually have them as 10.5-point underdogs against the Denver Broncos this week. I mean, it's surprising to see that line if you don't know about over-unders. I mean, it is really a ton of points to be giving up 10.5 to the Denver Broncos. I think we're going to take the under on that one. We'll take the New York Jets plus 10.5. But regardless, I mean, Vegas is projecting that this Zach Wilson-led New York Jets offense is going to have a very difficult time scoring the ball. So even if Michael Carter is out here and just taking over the majority of the snaps for this backfield, I still think we want to be going Javonte Williams here in this same matchup, knowing that Javonte Williams has split this backfield 50-50 with Melvin Gordon through the first 2 weeks. You should expect Javonte Williams to continue to increase his role, given the fact that with Javonte, he's been the much more impressive running back in my opinion. He was the running back that we definitely preferred coming into the season, understanding that his talent profile out of UNC screamed that he can be a bell cow running back, and he's going to be on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. I mean, like we already said, Vegas has Denver winning this game by 10.5. That should just scream fourth quarter runs for Javonte Williams. A lot of volume for Javonte Williams if Denver's going to be running this clock out. So yeah, I think that we actually just want to go Javonte here, but please let me know what y'all think. I think it's honestly an easy call. Now, going back to Lazy Ones, his question after winning a Fantasy Flock Network at saying start Kenny Galladay or Chase Claypool, LOL. Only thing I'm deciding, also go Flock Network. I want a hat. Everyone wants a hat. Well, you got one, my friend. In between Kenny Galladay and Chase Claypool, I think this really comes down to the health of Deontay Johnson. So at the time of this recording, we're not 100% sure if Deontay Johnson will be playing on Sunday. Now, I'll say that later today, we should have an injury update video coming out. And by the time we record that, we should 100% know on Deontay Johnson. So here, I think that we really want to go Kenny Galladay in a neutral situation. Like if Deontay Johnson were to play, I think Kenny Galladay is the clear call going up against the Atlanta Falcons. This is a defense that we want to be attacking every opportunity we have. And y'all know that with Kenny Galladay, I wasn't a fan coming into the season until he suffered the injury, and then his ADP fell like 4 rounds. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess at this point, we're willing to take the risk on Kenny Galladay. Because, I mean, you're looking at him, and while, yes, I mean, it's understandable that he does have that slow start to 2021, considering the fact that we have to remember, Kenny Galladay is someone that had absolutely no work at all with this New York Giants team during the preseason. He had a very limited run with Daniel Jones during training camp. So I think Galladay is just going to take a little bit longer than you would expect another wide receiver to. And I think that just understanding Galladay with the team investment that he has and the talent profile that he has as well is most likely going to eventually take over as the wide receiver 1 for New York here, where Sterling Shepard is soaking up so much of that production. I think this would be a very easy spot to see that happen, knowing that Kenny Galladay is having 10 days of rest between a Thursday night and Sunday, where this could be a spot where, I mean, he really does get fully healthy. He really gets implemented in with Daniel Jones. Hopefully they go out and get dinner together or something. I don't know. But I think Galladay is going to be the player that we're wanting to make the bet on. But if Deontay Johnson is out this week, then I think that you have to take at least a little more consideration into Chase Claypool, just knowing his target share would be bumped up. Okay, so now let's go back to the question from Jacob, who just won that Fantasy Flock Network hat, saying, love the work you put in, dog. Should I start Tannehill or Justin Fields this week? Okay, so obviously Justin Fields has a ridiculous amount of upside, given the fact that this was a quarterback that was very good in college, given the fact that this is a quarterback that also has the rushing equity that we are searching for with our quarterbacks in a 4-point passing touchdown league. However, with that being said, I do not like the matchup against the Cleveland Browns. I think the Browns do have a very good defense, despite what some other people have been saying. I don't really care. I mean, the Browns have a great pass rush. And I think with Justin Fields, based on the struggles that we saw him have this past week, I think this could be a spot where he's just not ready in this Bears offense. I mean, it's very different than them coming out and saying, well, you know what, Andy Dalton, you've been pretty bad. Let's bench Andy Dalton. Instead, let's put in Justin Fields. He's ready. No, that's not the case at all. It's more so we literally have no option but to play Justin Fields right now. So I think that does have to give you a little hesitation on where this team could possibly stand with this quarterback. So given the downside we have of Justin Fields, I personally want to be avoiding him in this scenario. Now, Thomas, please go through and prop up the Justin Fields over-under on total yards from Underdog Fantasy. Now, here on Underdog Fantasy, at last I checked that, I'm at like 268 total yards, which is not a lot for your quarterback, which I think that we should just be going through and fading him. Depends on how much of that yardage you expect to be rushing production. And if y'all want to go check out more over-unders on these player props on Underdog Fantasy, the number one way that you can support this channel, the number one way that you can show that you enjoy these videos is by going and making a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy. You can find the link in the description of the video. You can find it in the comment section. When you make that $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy, you get a max deposit bonus with promo code FLOCK. And also, if you use promo code FLOCK, every single day from now until the end of the season, you get additional entries to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. So make sure you go take advantage of that. Show some support for the channel. But I think we go Tannehill, knowing that we are most likely going to see Tennessee have to just change it up a little bit, because we have to remember, while Tannehill has been disappointing, I mean, week 1, we can just throw out the window against Arizona because that game got so out of hand that they couldn't establish the run. They couldn't get the play action going. And in week 2, Derrick Henry, 35 rushing attempts. That is not going to be happening very often. I think we want to be betting against it. A.J. Brown's going to be in a massive bounce back spot this week, as well as Julio Jones. I want to be betting on Ryan Tannehill here. Okay, so Alfred, don't know how to say this name. I apologize, but saying, thinking of starting Devontae Smith Monday night over T. Higgins or Kenny Galladay. And then you're saying also starting Galladay over Robert Woods. What's the word? Okay, so I'll say, I really don't like the idea of starting Kenny Galladay over Robert Woods. I mean, Thomas, please go through and throw up the over-unders on both of these wide receivers from Underdog as well. And I think that here with Robert Woods, you're just looking at a wide receiver that, going back to what we were speaking on this Tampa Bay Buccaneers Los Angeles Rams game, I think the Rams are really going to have to skew extremely pass happy. And if you look at what they did this past week, while I know that Cooper Kupp soaked up almost all of that production, I think that if you're looking at the target breakdown, Robert Woods still has a solidified role in this offense. And with Robert Woods, we have seen it season after season after season that this is someone that we can confidently rely on as a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1. So I don't want to be drastically changing our expectations based on a small sample of what we've actually had this year so far. I think that instead we have to view Robert Woods and say, hell, he's the wide receiver 1B to Cooper Kupp's wide receiver 1A. So I'm going to be starting Robert Woods, especially this week where we know that they are going to have to skew a little more pass happy. And then between starting T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, I think that personally, I'm going to be fine with either decision. Now, the problem is with T. Higgins, just the health is a concern. I mean, he really hasn't been practicing as of late. Now, of course, we'll give that video later today, giving that injury update. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. But Devontae Smith does have that fantastic matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. So it's hard for me to come out and say just jam in T. Higgins. I think at this point, we're probably going to have to wait until we see some more injury reports, which we may already have by the time this video comes out, and we'll give that update later on. Okay, but going through, let's pull up our next question coming out from David, who says, start 2 wide receivers in a flex, half PPR, Robert Woods, Allen Robinson, Cortland Sutton, Odell Beckham Jr., Miles Sanders. Thanks for the content, Mason. No, my man, thank you so much, of course, for supporting the channel. And so here, I think that Robert Woods is someone that I really want to be jamming in. Now with Robert Woods, I mean, we kind of already discussed it. I don't necessarily feel the need to talk about it any longer. Now, as well, Cortland Sutton going up against the New York Jets. Sutton dominated this past week with fantasy production, and it wasn't based off of touchdown efficiency. Rather, it was based off just the pure volume that Cortland Sutton saw in this offense. That's going to be something I want to bet on for the long term. So yeah, we're going to be going Cortland Sutton here as well for one of our slots. And now trying to figure out the flex between Allen Robinson, Odell Beckham Jr., and Miles Sanders. I think it's really hard to just confidently rely on Allen Robinson going into this week, knowing that we have the uncertainty with Justin Fields at quarterback, as well as Allen Robinson hasn't looked great so far this season. However, I still think you have to go Allen Robinson here. I mean, he's just much more talented than these other wide receiver options. I mean, with Miles Sanders right now, he is going through and playing in a committee with Kenneth Gainwell, something I did not expect. I mean, the production for Miles Sanders hasn't been that bad or anything, just because the offense has been productive, and you should expect the run efficiency to be up for Miles Sanders whenever he's running next to Jalen Hurts, something that we have already discussed. But I think at this point, even with the easy matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, it would be really hard to just confidently rely on Miles Sanders in this spot. Now, our next question coming out from Diet Powerade, someone that's out there in the live streams a lot, and he's saying, start 2 at the flex, Mike Davis, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Waddle, Myles Gaskin, Odell Beckham Jr., and Kenyon Drake. Okay, so I'll say real quick, Thomas, I'm sorry to be a pain in the ass, but throw up the over-under on Jalen Waddle. This under on Jalen Waddle is a complete smash. I mean, I think Jalen Waddle is definitely a player that we have to be avoiding everywhere we can this week, knowing that you're having Will Fuller come back to this offense, knowing that also Tua Tagovailoa is not going to be playing here, so it's going to be a very difficult spot for, this overall offense to be able to move the ball down the field. And if you're playing in an offense that's going to have a hard time moving the ball down the field with Will Fuller, with Devontae Parker, with Jalen Waddle, I don't necessarily want to start any of those options. If Tua was here, I would be a lot more excited about it. Now with Mike Davis, Mike Davis is not a player that I liked coming into drafts based on the fact that I just don't think he is a talented running back. I'm viewing him as pretty much the definition of a jag, just a guy. However, going up against the New York Giants, I think this will be a spot that you have to jam in Mike Davis, just knowing the usage he'll have in the receiving game out of the backfield. Now, for our other spots between Juju Smith-Schuster, Myles Gaskin, Odell Beckham Jr., and Kenyon Drake, this is really going to come down to 3 players for me. This is going to come down to Kenyon Drake, assuming that Josh Jacobs is out. At the time of this recording, we are unsure on that. But if Jacobs is out, I think Drake could be appealing here. And Juju Smith-Schuster, if Deontay Johnson is out, I think Juju gets a significant bump up, knowing that they do get targeted in this similar area of the football field. And then Odell Beckham Jr. coming back as really the only wide receiver on the Cleveland Browns now that you have Jarvis on the short-term IR. So with all these guys, I think we go Odell, assuming Deontay Johnson and Josh Jacobs plays. Now, if Jacobs is out with Kenyon Drake going up against the Miami Dolphins, it would be a fantastic matchup for him, where this Buffalo Bills team just gave up 3 rushing touchdowns to the combination of Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. Honestly, I think we would probably want to go Kenyon Drake there. It could easily be the wrong call, though. I mean, maybe the right call is just to jam in Odell Beckham Jr. Now, our next question coming out from Mario, who says, Damian Harris or Chase Edmonds. Okay, so here you have Harris going up against the New Orleans Saints. Not a great matchup. Now, yes, Damian Harris is a great running back. But like I said on why we wanted to avoid him coming into the year, the problem is with Damian Harris, the opportunity that he lacks in the receiving game just caps his ceiling severely in fantasy football. Now with Chase Edmonds, a great matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think, honestly, that one's a toss-up if it's a full PPR format. If it's a half PPR, you go Damian Harris. If it's a non-PPR, you easily go Damian Harris. Our next question, Tyler Higbee or Robert Tanyan. I mean, if you would have asked me this just a week ago, I would have told you Tyler Higbee based on the usage that he had week 1 in Los Angeles, but they completely phased him out in week 2. I think at this point, it would be hard to say Tyler Higbee. Let's just go with the safer option and Robert Tanyan. And then also the last question between Damian Harris or Tyson Williams. I think here with Tyson Williams, I mean, this is a spot where Yes, he has a great matchup, but you really can't be playing him when it's uncertain exactly how many touches he's going to be seeing. I do want to be on record saying that I think Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman are going to continue to work their way into this offense. I think none of the other running backs there, are really that much worse than Tyson Williams. I think they're all in a similar range. And now that they've been with the team a little longer, I think maybe they split this backfield almost evenly. So I think we go Damien Harris there, just knowing the workload's a lot safer, even though Tyson Williams has a great matchup against the Detroit Lions. Now, thank you. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. Of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment with any start-sit questions you have. I'm going to be trying to get to as many as I can. But most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out to our live streams. You can get your questions answered from me live. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. And have a great day.